So there's so much hypocrisy and misunderstanding on both sides.
And I come from a mixed background. My mother was Republican. My dad was a Democrat.
I just want people to be more informed. I want them to turn off cable news.
Once you study history, you realize you've seen all these things that have happened before and they play out, and you realize this is nothing new.
Well, hello. It is November 7th of 2020, and we just had our election. And today, Joe Biden was, I guess, announced, I don't think it's certified yet, but announced to be the winner for the presidential race. And there is a lot of tension because some people are very, very happy about that, and some people are very unhappy about that. So Kimbra and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about how to move forward from here. How do we get along? How do we get along when the country's so divided and people have such different opinions of how things should be going in our country? Right.
Yeah, I agree. I got a text from somebody who was very happy about the outcome of the election, and he said, "Oh, happy days are here again." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't go that far because we have a lot of work to do." And like I was telling you earlier, Kelly, it's like, how do I want to be able to talk to my friends again freely about like who I voted for. And I almost feel like I'm afraid to tell anybody because if I bought this shirt showing the person that I voted for on it, and I didn't want to wear it because I felt like I was, going to get like a lot of hostility either way, and I shouldn't have to feel like I'm afraid to let people know who I voted for. So now it's like, I wanted to talk about that because I think that it's something the people in America, we need to work at that because we're such a divided country. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think the issue with that is, just for the record, I'm not happy either way. So I wasn't going to be happy. I already accepted that I wasn't going to be happy with the result because I feel like we have an older generation that is in control of our government, and they are not familiar with the changes with technology and how the world has changed. So I feel like they're trying to govern like it's 1950 or 1970 or, 50 years ago. And it doesn't, those rules don't work now. Those laws, those rules, those trade deals don't work anymore because it's a different world that we live in. And I do think I think Donald Trump had some good ideas, but I think he was, very divisive in his behavior and all that, was embarrassing for the country. And then Joe Biden, I feel like he's still stuck in the past, and he made some bad decisions in the past. So I'm not happy.
Right.
With that said, I feel like the problem is bigger. I feel like we're like two sporting teams. Like people picked a side. And what irritates me more than anything, I can have a conversation with a Republican, someone who's very strongly in support of Donald Trump, or I can have a conversation with someone who's very much a Democrat. And I am fine as long as they know what they're talking about. They've done their research and they know what these parties stand for. But when I lose my patience is, I had a liberal friend last week, or maybe the week before, I think it was last week. We were on the phone and she was going on and on and on about Donald Trump, the orange man, the Cheeto, I just want him out, I don't care. And I was trying to talk to her and say, well, but Joe Biden, blah, 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 he's done some bad things too. Aren't you willing to look at that? And at least it's a conversation that's private. It's not public. Okay, you don't want to say anything public about him, but like, do you understand the things he's done wrong? And she got angry at me and hung up on me. And I messaged her and said, you owe me an apology because I was out of line. And she claims that I was talking over her because I was trying to, get a word in edgewise while she was beating up on Donald Trump. And I'm fine if you don't like Donald Trump and all the reasons that we should, you might not like him. But not just the way he looks or just that he's said some rude things. There are things that are much greater and bigger reasons to not like Donald Trump, which there's reasons to not like all politicians. And so that's, for me, I am having a hard time. I'm struggling with respecting people who just don't like one of the candidates because the way they look, the way they talk, with people are saying Biden has dementia, and
Mm-hmm.
he may well have, but we don't know that for sure. So all of the assumptions, and then the voter fraud, they're talking about voter fraud. That may be true, but we don't have proof yet. So why jump to conclusions and start threatening to shoot people that disagree with you because we think maybe the other team cheated? Let's let
And
it
we
play
should
out.
never threaten to shoot people over an
Well,
election
yeah,
anyway.
that is a really good point. You got a really good point there. So anyway, so that for me, I'm really struggling with maintaining these friendships with people that I don't respect.
Well, that's one thing. That's a Kellie thing with her friends. But I'm talking about it the whole in society in general. I feel like that we've gone to the extreme of where, I grew up around a lot of Republicans because I grew up in Orange County when I feel like the party was a little bit more. They were much more even keel and conservative in a lot of ways. But I know how I grew up around a lot of Republicans, so I know that side of the world, and I live near Hollywood, so I'm around a lot of liberals, so I feel like I can
Oh.
understand both worlds. I'm not one of those people that always takes a hard line because of a
Mm-hmm.
party. I kind of look at both things, but I don't ever remember. And my mom and I come from a mixed background. My mother was Republican, my dad was a Democrat, so I know how to get along with the other side, but it was never treated like the other side like it is now. It's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
war, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And after the election, which is pretty much over now, I want to be able to
If you like our videos, go ahead and click on like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
for all of us to get along, because that side is not going away. We're not going away. No one's going away.
Right.
So I feel like we should learn how to live with each other and talk about things civilly without I know sometimes things get heated,
Yeah.
but that's that's my beef.
Well, I think the difference is from when you grew up and that you've been exposed to both parties and
Mm-hmm,
both
mm-hmm,
value systems,
mm-hmm,
is they were so similar back then, and
mm-hmm.
life was so good for everyone. Well, I don't want to say that's not true. That's really not
Yeah,
true.
that's true. I mean, that's not true.
But
You're right.
it was painted out to be like, um, other voices weren't heard. People,
That's
well,
true.
there was civil unrest in the 60s and
Yeah,
70s, and
that's true.
so
There's
there's
always been
been
civil
several.
unrest,
Yeah, yeah.
but my stepfather said that when he
And
came out here in this,
injustice.
yeah, but the difference is what you're probably trying to say is that when, like my stepfather, when he came out here from Vermont in the 70s, he said jobs were plentiful. They were throwing them out like candy. Times were better economically for
Yeah.
most people. There's always been a group that it's not
Yeah.
been good for. That's
Yeah,
true.
and I think that's why right now, well, and the world has changed so much. Technology has changed how we do things,
Mm-hmm.
and there's losing jobs. We're
Mm-hmm.
losing more jobs because of technology, and the oil industry. We're changing, going to a more green,
Mm-hmm.
renewable energy, and that's a loss of jobs for people who know that industry and they don't want to learn something new. They don't,
That's
if you're in
true.
your 50s, you don't want to be told, I'm sorry, your job is obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
have to learn something new. And Andrew Yang talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
People, in your 50s, you don't want to go back to college or you learn a new trade. So what do we do with those people? But I think I did have a really good conversation with a heavy Trump supporter. I mean, she's all about Trump and the GOP, and she raises funds for the
Mm-hmm.
Republicans. And we we have very good conversations, and we listen to each other. And she's educated me on why the people that are in the coal industry are afraid of losing their jobs, because what are they going to do? What's a man in his 50s going to do if he loses his job, or he's up for retirement? He's waiting out for retirement, and then he loses all of his pension, if the coal industry dies out, or the company closes. So I understand that, but I feel like a little bit there are groups that are holding us back. And I explained to her, I said, well, if they had that attitude when they invented the steam engine,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say, cars, automobiles, if people fought to keep driving horses and buggies because they don't want automobiles for all the reasons that, they come up with why they wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
we would never progress, and that's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible to stop progress, really. So I feel like a little bit that's some of the friction is there's half of us are holding us back, just
Mm-hmm.
refusing to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think there's the difference between the lifestyle in a big city and a
Mm-hmm.
small town.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like two different worlds, and the
That's
priorities are very
true.
different. And
When you see
um,
the election, the way it panned out, it was like all the
mhm,
outside of the big cities voted for Trump, Republican, and it was the major metropolitan cities
yeah,
mostly voted for Biden.
yeah.
So it's just like the map.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why we have to really examine, and whoever comes up with the solution is going to be the hero of the century, because we have to figure out how to mend and meld both ways of life together, because they're both important. The
Mm-hmm.
people that live in the big cities, I'm here in Wyoming. It's a very conservative state. I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
small town, and what I'm seeing is, I had one of the state politicians, and he won his race, tell me that people in Los Angeles are very lazy. And he said, look at all the homeless people. And so that just shows he really believed that. And I said, no. I said, the homeless people are there because they come from all over the country because it's warm weather. They're not going to come here. We
Mm-hmm.
have snow and winter. And I said,
That's
no,
true.
that's why everybody goes to the warm weather. So we've got in California, they've got all the homeless people, and those people aren't lazy. The people that live in California, they are the biggest hustlers I've ever met because it's so expensive to live there. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. So
Exactly.
you are so off base to think, and he's saying the liberals are lazy. And it's frustrating that people don't understand the other way. And then when I came to Wyoming, and I have friends that are against guns and hunting, and and I see, I've had conversations with friends about meat. In fact, we did a podcast about that, eating meat. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you go to the grocery store and buy meat. It's if you hunt and kill your meat and eat it, it's actually better for you anyway. So that's the same thing. So there's so much hypocrisy and misunderstanding on both sides that I wish we would talk more. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that we're always going to agree on things, because, like I said, I think half of the country is just holding us back from moving forward. And in the past, sometimes that was a good thing because we don't want to move forward too fast. We want
Sure.
to move at a slower pace. But now it's getting to the point that there's people threatening violence, and that's
And
not
we
right.
talked about this a little bit too. How, like, for instance, on Facebook, how a lot of my friends will say, I don't want to have anybody that voted for Trump be on my Facebook page, and then
Right.
vice versa.
Right.
And I just think for me personally, that's not the way I want to go, because I want to hear what people are saying. I want to be able to understand why they feel
Yeah.
this way. Because if you always are surrounded in your little bubble, and I know we talked about this too before,
Yeah.
then you're just surprised when things happen because you were in your little bubble,
You're like, wait a minute. I didn't know.
what happened,
Yeah.
and so I have a lot of friends that, if you voted for this person, I don't want you to, I'm not accepting you as my friend anymore on Facebook, for instance. And
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. For me personally, I have friends both liberal and conservative, because
Yeah.
uh, I enjoy talking to people from different parts. That's another thing. I enjoy talking to people from different parts of the world. I've always been that way. Not just the world, but our country. Like, I enjoy meeting people from Texas, and I some of those people in the South are like the most down to earth, give you the shirt off their back. What they say they're going to do something, they do it. And I really just like it when people paint people from the South or the country as country bumpkins, because we have some of the
Yeah.
most wonderful people, that are well educated, and I don't like that stereotype. So you're going to find in uneducated people in all walks,
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of
Well,
my little plug for people from the South.
well, and really all over the country. I mean, we all, there are so many different factions and different ways of life, but the other argument is with universal basic income, they're saying it'll make people lazy. I'm
Mm.
I work with lazy people, and they collect their paycheck. They show up for work when they feel like it, but they get their paycheck, and they think that they can look down on someone that they consider lazy, who would be, whatever, happy with the universal
Mm.
basic income. And it's, again, I think we are a very immature nation. I think we are a lot of damaged people. damaged and immature, and people who are not self-aware and not looking. I really think, and I think Marianne Williamson is having a great impact in her speeches, and I think she started a podcast now,
Mm-hmm.
in reaching out to people and telling us, look in the mirror. Like, stop worrying about what everyone else is doing and what somebody else got that you didn't get, or your tax money went here or there. Another issue is the health care, the Medicare for all. You and I have done a podcast on that, and it's ridiculous that this country does not have Medicare for all. And the only reason we don't have it is because people don't understand it. They're
Mm-hmm.
arguing and saying the government run health care
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be efficient. Well, the military's government run, and you're pretty happy with that. So why
That's
can't we
true.
take some of that money and use it for Medicare for all, which would not be government run? It would be paid for by the government, but it
Mm-hmm.
would still be private. Doctors. The government wouldn't be hiring doctors and building hospitals. It would all still be private industry, private business. Just the government pays for it instead of the insurance companies. So
Mm-hmm.
again, that's my frustration, is with people that don't educate themselves, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to read an article. They want to listen to the news on cable and let that person tell them what to think and tell them what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's our biggest problem and why we're not getting along.
Right. There's a lot of misinformation in the media for sure. And I know people overuse this word a lot, but we are so tribal. It's like you're my tribe, the liberal tribe, and you're my conservative tribe, and never shall the twain meet. You know. And so I would like to see a little bit more
Like teams.
communication.
I call it like a sporting event. We've
Mm-hmm.
become like two sporting teams,
Mm-hmm.
and your team must win. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't care if the people on your team have done bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we do that with our sports heroes too. There are sports heroes who have
That's
been
true.
convicted of domestic violence and dog fighting, and we still accept them and go and cheer for them because we don't care what bad things they do. We just want our team to win. We want the
Mm-hmm.
best man on
Mm-hmm.
our team. And I think that shows a lack of um, uh, principle. I really do. And I think our country is kind of lost. I think we're trying to find our way. We got lost. We're using religion and patriotism as a way to, show that we are worthy,
Mm-hmm.
if we
Mm-hmm.
feel like we don't have anything else. And we're using it as a blanket. I think our politicians use it too. They wear the little flag pin, but
Mm-hmm.
they're doing awful things and killing people in other countries. And, so we're using these symbols to excuse ourselves from the bad things that we're doing. And I think as individuals, we're also doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going out and killing people, but we're using these symbols, as a blanket of honor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, what would you say how would you like to see us in the future? What's the outcome of all this?
For me, and I am always ranting and raving on social media about it, I just want people to be more informed. I want them to turn off cable news. I don't want people to turn that TV on. Get on the internet, get on YouTube, start watching lectures, learn more about philosophy, history.
That's a
Our
mighty tall
brains,
order.
well, I want people to stretch their brain, because I feel like as a society, corporations are hiring more and more people, and we become robotic. We become robots. Your boss tells you what to do, what time to come in, what to wear, when you can go to the bathroom, when you can eat. And so we just have become obedient robots, and we're
Mm.
not thinking for ourselves. And then we're tired, we go home, we just want to watch TV, and then the TV's telling us what to think and how we should be living our lives. And I think people have just become very vulnerable and susceptible to that kind of programming. It's kind of a
Mm.
brainwashing thing, and we're becoming more cult like. We've got our patriotic political cults,
Mm.
instead of thinking, wait a minute, why is this? Why is that? How would this work if we did this? And we've just accepted. So, when they talk about socialism versus capitalism, capitalism has a lot of weaknesses, and it fails without socialism stepping in. But boy, is socialism scary too. We don't want, although socialism we have a lot of socialism, but we don't want government control, which is what people mix up with communism. But
Sure.
we don't want to have that either, because we want to have our freedoms, and our freedoms are being taken away more and more and more. And, people that are concerned about wearing a mask, but they're not concerned about the government spying on all of us and keeping our records, and could possibly frame politicians later to get, and maybe they're doing it now to get them to do what they want. So that is a greater assault on our freedom than telling you need to wear a mask for a couple months.
And I also
So,
think that you brought up a point about being educated. I think if people were more educated in general and had more critical thinking, when they hear really off the wall conspiracy theories, they would think, does this make sense? I mean, on a very human,
mm-hmm,
basic, make sense
mm-hmm,
level, is this really possible? I mean, and not just accept it, because that's what seems to be happening a lot with people in conspiracy theories. They accept it without even, and then it builds and builds and builds it on the internet, and then you got this whole movement, and you're just thinking, how could that even have happened? You know,
well,
that's
because
what
they
I
always
think.
start with a grain of truth. And even, our newscasters, our cable news people, whether it's Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow, they're telling you the truth. They're just leaving other things out.
Mm,
And so then these conspiracy theories start with something based on truth.
mm,
And then it grows, and people, then it gets exaggerated, and people add to it parts that aren't true, that haven't been proven. Let's put it that way, that
yeah,
haven't been proven.
and there's no.
And then we refer back to, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that have been proven true. So that's why, the flat earth thing, I guess, is the easiest one to debunk,
Debunk.
right? And the most crazy one.
Yeah.
But, people get convinced because unless you've been out in a spaceship and seen that the earth is round, how can we prove that? So if you're only going by what's proven, and you think the earth is flat.
But I also think that in general, our education, and I know this is getting overplayed a lot too, it's just science. I know that people are getting upset because people are always saying they're throwing science around so much, but just basic educational principles that we all grew up with, they're getting debunked, unless I can see it, and sometimes, you just know because of all the science classes you've taken in physics.
Yeah, but see, I think that's dangerous too, because things change. They
Oh
discover
yeah,
new
well
things,
that's,
and they do debunk the past. What was
well,
believed
science
50
always
years
does.
ago isn't
It's not,
always true.
well, it's never true. It's
So, yeah.
never static. It
Because there
always
was a time when they believed the earth was flat, and
Oh, of
everybody believed
course,
it, and
of
it was
course.
accepted because there was no greater proof. So as we evolve and learn more, we have to be open. I think the more important thing is having an open mind and being willing to change what you believe with new information.
Of
But
course.
it's got to be validated, and
Sure,
science can validate things. But
sure.
even scientists admit, and that it's not always a fact. We always have to be open
Well, the
to
definition of science
change.
is that it's never static. It's always changing
Yeah,
because you're always having to do new tests and new theories and
yeah,
stuff that was true 50 years ago gets
yeah,
changed within 30 years because then they're going to do even whatever Einstein did. There's new proven theories after that that get tested and
yep,
they find out, oh,
yeah,
he did the best he could with the information that he had. Then
yeah.
it gets tested and tested. So, but
But I
still,
think what backs up what you're saying is that people are not, they're not even studying science
right.
to know all the facts. They're just, again, they're listening to cable news hosts, and they're telling them what to believe and what to think, and they're not going and doing their own research. Because once you start doing your own research, things get a lot easier, and it does take time. But I try to tell people, I say, turn off the televisions and stop watching silly reality show TV and watch a documentary, because that can be just as interesting. And that is a reality show. It's a documentary, but it's true.
And history is fascinating. I once had a friend that said, what I don't want, he had little kids and he was like, I don't want my kids being history majors. And I was like, but history is so important. That's the other thing that I think in
Yeah.
America, we don't value history as much because we're a newer country. And once you study history, you realize you've seen all these things that have happened before and they play out, and you
Yep.
realize this is nothing new. This happened,
Yep.
in the 15th century. This happened in the 17th century. So that's the reason. That's another educational gap we have, is that people we're so always concerned about making money, tech jobs, but we don't think about learning about science and history, because that's what bases a lot of things are based on that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And like you said, we're repeating this history over and over. We're just
mm-hmm,
calling it, naming it different things.
mm-hmm,
And it kills me when people think, this is it. They're fighting for the capitalist system and it's never going to change, and this is the best we can ever do, and it's gotten more people out of poverty, and and all of that is true, but can't we keep improving on it? Can't we
sure.
have throughout all of history, all these years, what if the caveman just said, we invented the wheel, that's the best we can do, we're done?
Right, right.
That's silly, and it's again, it's childish, it's immature, it's people that don't want change, and they're holding on and keeping us in the past. But we can't, and we can, and
Most
we will.
generations don't want change because it's really good for them, and then but things always change, and we have to go with the flow. Convenience always trumps whatever we want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like the internet.
Yeah,
that
yeah. So. Well, because change takes effort. Mm-hmm. And it takes effort on everyone's part. I mean, even when the internet changes, you get that notification, you got to update your system or something, and you're like, oh no, now I got to learn how to do this all over. So it's human nature not to like change. But then, and I'm a good one at that, because I hate it when I get system updates and I'm like, ugh! And then I do it, and then in a couple of weeks I'm going, oh, I can do this now, and I can do this now, and then I'm enjoying it, and I'm glad I was. But if I had not been forced to do it, I probably wouldn't have.
So Thanksgiving is coming up, and even though it's going to be smaller gatherings, I am going to have a little family gathering of under 10 people, and I want it to go back to the good old days when it didn't turn out to be a slugfest, or that I was afraid to bring up some political thing without it turning into a big, So do you have any advice for me?
I'm probably the worst one, because I'm like I said, I think instead of focusing on trying to agree to disagree, because I think there's some really bad ideas out there that we shouldn't be agreeing with. I don't think we should just accept it. Like, oh, okay, go ahead, and you believe that the earth is flat, or you believe, I don't know, the gay people shouldn't get married. That should have been settled. That's done. So I don't believe that we should be letting just, okay, go ahead, and you have your opinion and I'll have mine, because there's some really bad opinions. So
that's just wrong.
I feel like well, and it is, I mean, morally, and as we move forward, we're going to see that, but there are people that believe firmly in what they believe too. So I think there's got to be more understanding why they got there, and more conversation, not less.
That's true.
And it's got to be, you can't have a conversation where you influence someone who has no idea what you're talking about. So it takes more. Everybody needs to, again, for me, I think the solution is to turn off the television, start studying history, a little bit of philosophy. I know Kimbra's like, yeah, right, that's going to happen.
Like, okay, that's really going to happen.
Okay, so for this Thanksgiving, don't talk about politics, and I hate saying that. But if you want to I feel like if you want to get along with your family, I don't know. I mean,
I think I'm going to practice talking about politics, but bringing it up in a very diplomatic way, as I do. Just with the people I'm thinking of that I'm going to have dinner with, because we never do, So I think I might broach the subject and see. They'll be my guinea pigs.
Okay, and then we'll do a podcast how it goes. If you come back with a black eye, then we know, that wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny, because I'm one of those funny people, though, that I do have friends from all political walks of life, and I manage to play amongst them, as they say. So, but I still am not fully confident to, bring up certain topics, because they're just too volatile right now. So,
well, I think it's easy to play among people when you don't get deep into the conversation. But if you really, like I said, I have a hard time letting things go and just telling someone, you agree to disagree.
Right.
When no, your ideas are dangerous. your ideas
Well,
are,
that's true.
uh,
If an idea was too dangerous, I know I would have to jump in because there's certain
yeah.
rights that can't be taken away.
It's like, we've learned to don't discuss religion, don't discuss politics, and don't discuss money because it's not polite,
Mm,
because it causes conflict.
mm.
But are you going to stand there while somebody's beating a little kid and let them beat him black and blue until the kid's bleeding? I mean, I can't do that.
I definitely think we should talk about. I know that's that old. I don't know what you call it. A thing that your parents used to say. Don't talk about politics and don't talk about religion. But I don't think that's true. They say it's impolite, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's true because from the little time that I spent in Europe, Europeans are much better about talking about politics and religion, and they don't end up getting in big old fights. And you can talk about it in conversation, just having coffee with somebody. And I think Americans, we get a little bit too, that's a wrong way of thinking. I think the more we
Well,
talk about it, we'll learn about, be able to talk about it better
right.
instead of
It's
going,
it's that's yeah, it's
you
new
know,
for us, I think, because
mm-hmm,
we went
mm-hmm,
so long without discussing it. I
mm-hmm,
remember at one point, I remember getting on Facebook, and maybe 10 years ago, I started going reading people's what they were believing, and I was like, you believe that? Oh my gosh. Or you think that? And even now, like, I'm always appalled. I'm like, I thought everybody thought the way I thought. I thought we were all raised the same way to have the same principles and values and beliefs. And some people we disagree on the weight. I have, I'm proud to say that I'm liberal, progressive. I care about people. I want
mm-hmm.
everybody to have a fair chance in life. I'm not a communist. But I believe in some socialism. I had a conversation with a friend the other day who's so against socialism. I said, "Are you against free education?" Yes. Well, we went to a high school together and it was free. So that's socialism.
Right,
So there's just ignorance. There's people just don't even
right.
know what it is or the meaning of it, and they're scared of it. Um, so
Because for so long in our country, we put such a bad word against communism, and now they're
yeah,
trying
the
to
Red Scare.
equate, yeah, and they're trying to
Yeah,
equate socialism with communism when
yeah.
it's not the same thing. And we have
Yeah.
little bits of it already, as you know. And
Well, and here's
so,
another thing that I always think about. We're all very different. One of my friends recently said to me, "Kels, you're so ambitious." I don't think he used that word, but he said, if you had $5 million in the bank, you'd still be doing a million things. You're just always on the go and always coming up with ideas and plotting and planning. And I said, yeah, that's how I am. I just like to do things. And then there's other people that they say, well, if you give them $1,000 a month, they're not going to do anything. And they might not. And what's wrong with that? Or some people like to live in the big city. Some people like to live in a small town.
sure.
Some people want to, they choose to stay single and not have kids. Some people want to get married and have kids and think, how could you not get married and have kids? Some people want a dog. Some people want a cat. We are all so different. So why can't we come together in a society that provides that lifestyle? Why does it have to be the same for everyone? What is
Are
the
you
same
saying
to
live
each
and
is
let live?
well, live and let live, but also provide the opportunity for people
Right.
to live and let
Sure.
live. You and I were talking on the phone the other day about people that are born poor,
Mm.
very, very, very poor. And a lot of them, like the chances of them getting out of that, and there's always somebody that did, and somebody made it on their own, and somebody, succeeded. A lot of times they'll bring up Steve Jobs. He came from a wealthy family. Bill Gates came from a wealthy family. Mark Zuckerberg came from a wealthy family. I don't believe for 1 minute they would be in the position they're in if they hadn't had support from their family. Steve Jobs probably from what I gather, he lived at home with his parents. He didn't have to worry about rent and food. He was tinkering in the garage, working on the Apple computer with Steve Wozniak. So
And what all
how
those
many
three had in common was they were allowed to, whether their parents paid for it or whomever, they got a really good
they
education,
they got
So,
a good education, and they were given, but they all dropped out of college. I don't
right.
think Mark Zuckerberg did, but Steve Jobs and Bill Gates both dropped out of college.
But they went
uh,
like 3 years to Harvard, so they probably got like
well,
some
they
good
got the best
education.
of everything. They
Right.
had the best opportunity, and they were able to live up to their potential. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think, how many kids that were born really poor, and what I was saying to you the other day, I was saying a lot of people that are grasping onto like the flag, like that's their symbol, that's their their validation that
Validation.
makes them, because, the tribal thing or whatever, because I'm a patriot, because I believe in the flag, and how dare somebody kneel before the flag, then you got to stand at attention. And so it gives them value to their life when maybe they wouldn't have any other feeling of value. And I'm not saying that everybody that's patriotic, because I'm incredibly patriotic, feels that way, but I think a lot of people do, and they're looking for something. And I think on both sides, on the other side, on the liberal side, there's people they're just joining the group, and they're posting things on social media that they think will make people think that they're a good person, but they're not willing to do anything about it. They're not willing to put their self on the line and have a discussion about it or do any research. It's just like, oh yeah, I believe in a woman's right to choose because it's good and it's the right thing. But why do you believe that? How much have you researched? Do you know the statistics of what would happen if we overthrew Roe versus Wade? Like really know and own it. So I feel like on both sides, people are just trying to be good, trying to put the appearance forth of being a good person without really living it and being able to talk about it.
I mean, you got to walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk, or you're going to talk the talk if you're going to walk the walk.
Yeah, there you go. I always get those things wrong. Something like that.
And we're all trying to do the best we can, but it's just we got to do better.
We can do better.
Not to sound like an Oprah thing, but we got to do better, folks.
Yep, we can do better. When you know better, you do better. That is an Oprah thing.
Right. But anyway, so I think we can wrap this up by saying that we're going to try to do better.
There we go.
Maybe.
And what I would say is turn off the TV.
Right.
That's my take on this.
I would say you can talk about politics and religion, but gently. I don't know. I'm going to try.
Okay, you let us know after Thanksgiving how it goes. I have the feeling that your family's a pretty civilized group, though. I think you guys will be able to manage it.
They're very civilized.
You come from a very nice family.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but well, in case they're listening, yes, they are.
Yes.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day, and so let's just try.
Let's finish with saying, if you didn't get what you want from the election, there's going to be another one in 4 more years. I mean, we're going to go through this again and again and again. And so you'll have your chance. In the meantime, do the work that you need to do and try to make a difference locally, even, the political climate locally. So it's not, because you might have not gotten your way presidentially this time in the race. There's always the next time. And there are so many other things that we can be focused on in the meantime to make a difference.
Yeah. And, Joe Biden said something that I thought was interesting. He said that our democracy has been the envy of the world. And I thought, in the big scheme of things, it's true. I mean, generally speaking, we've had a very peaceful transition. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of a neat thing to say. But, like Kelly said, if the person that you voted for didn't win, there's going to be another election. We'll just try to,
this isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
We've lived through worse. Let's not make it worse this time. Let's just accept what it is that we can't change. And what is that? Accept the serenity prayer. I can't remember what it is, but
I know what you're saying.
Accept what you can't change, because right now there's things.
God grant me the serenity to change this. What I can accept, what I can't change.
To accept what I cannot change, and to I don't know. Don't fight with your friends.
But
can't we all get along?
I was just going to say that. Good old Rodney King. Can't we just all get along? Yeah. But he didn't say it in that Oklahoma accent. So, anyway, until we meet again, until the next time.
Yeah.
And
we'll see you soon.
keep on smiling.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.